So we are on Matthew 5:8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. So the Greek adjective katharos means both clean, as in a clean linen shroud, a clean white shirt. You can see that also in Matthew 27. And pure, that is unadulterated or unalloyed, as in pure gold, as in Revelation. So you see two other instances where that word is used. Since pure in heart maybe seems to reflect Psalm 24:4, we should be instructed by it within regards to the understanding this beatitude. Since pure heart is there in parallel with clean hands, one is inclined to regard pure in heart as those who are innocent not only of moral failures, clean hands actions, but also of evil intentions. The heart being understood the seat of the will and of thought in kind of Hebrew understanding. So this morning, we have the greatest commandment. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. In the Hebrew, in the original one, it's just heart, soul, and strength. There's no mind involved. Mind is added in the New Testament in part because in Greek understanding, the mind is where you kind of think, the seat of thought. In Hebrew understanding, the heart is the seat of thought and of will. So when they just say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength, their notion of mind is already included in there. That's one of the things to understand sometimes when you're reading the Old Testament, the Hebrew Scriptures. When you're talking about heart, you can sometimes kind of also put mind in there as well. Heart is less about emotion in Hebrew Scriptures, more about seat of the will and of thought, of intellect. So, but if this is the meaning, then who's going to qualify for the blessing? Paul reminds us that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Do any of us have totally clean hands and pure hearts and pure minds? Have we never thought wrong or thought ill of someone? So either the psalmist is unduly optimistic about the perfectibility of the saints, or she is using the term to designate something other than absolute moral perfection. We might be tempted to think it means purity in regards to what we might consider the grosser sins, murder, adultery, theft, but there's no indication of that case. We're not grading on a bell curve here. The psalmist could be using the adjective in the other sense, the unalloyed. The same Hebrew root occurs in this sense in 2 Samuel 22:27, where it says, with the pure thou dost show thyself pure. Taking in this way, the pure in heart are those whose devotion to God is unalloyed. They are not double-minded, as James says in James 1:8. They do not attempt to serve both mammon and God. They don't try to serve two masters. But even in that, who of us are always solely focused on God? If we don't serve two masters, like, well, I can go to church, but there's a Penn State football game on. What am I going to choose? Sometimes our devotions are elsewhere. None of us are completely unalloyed and not purely devoted to God. We sometimes serve other masters, job, money, prestige, popularity, football, the all-you-can-eat buffet. We have these different things. So the beatific vision promised to the pure in heart is probably eschatological. So somebody asked at 8 o'clock, what does eschatological mean? Eschatological kind of refers to what you might consider the end times, the second coming of Christ. So eschatology is a study of what would be considered the end times, the new heaven, the new earth, Jesus coming back, all of that kind of stuff. So it might be an eschatological pure heart where you will see God at the end. In the coming kingdom, it will be their pleasure to see God face to face. You will see your Redeemer liveth. But it could also mean that these individuals will see God in their lives. They will see how God is working. They'll see God's fingerprints on much of their lives. They will see God in others. Often when we are in love, pining for someone else, we begin to see them everywhere, see things that remind us of them. Perhaps it is similar with God. When our devotion is unalloyed, we have pure heart, we will see God in our lives and the lives of others. Often when you're focused on something, you see something. I remember several years ago, we were changing our mission statement. We were having the word justice in there. People suddenly started seeing justice everywhere, in the liturgy, in hymns. They'd read it in the Bible. All these things. Like, what? We talk about justice a lot. I never noticed it before because you weren't looking for it before. I tell the story at my previous church. We had this banner hanging kind of over below like a stairwell in this main entryway. And I was asking our property building grounds chairperson to kind of take a look at it. And he's like, he saw it, like, I never noticed that before. I'm like, Bob, you're the chairperson building grounds. It's been up there for 7 years. So I just never looked up there. When you're not looking for things, you don't notice. But when you're focused on God, you're going to see evidence of God in your lives more often. You're going to see God in other people. You're going to see the fingerprints of God in your life. You're going to see things that remind you of God. When you're pure in heart, when you're focused on who God is and following God, I think you will see God more often. When you're not at all focused, we often don't see the things we choose not to see. It's easy to choose blindness sometimes. You just completely don't even notice people. I'll go to the grocery store sometimes and like jeans and a sweatshirt, and I'll wave to church members and they'll just keep on going by because they don't expect to see me in the grocery store. I live in this church 24/7. I don't have a life outside of this. How can I be at the grocery store? They're not expecting me in that context, so they don't see me. If we don't expect to see God, we won't see God. Questions, comments, pure remarks? Alrighty, I will see you next week. Thank you very much.